UCF routs North Carolina, but we told you they would.
You are Locked On UCF, your daily podcast on the UCF Knights, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In the Locked On UCF, your daily UCF podcast. I'm your host, Mike G. Thank you so much for making Locked On your first listen of every single day. Turn us up, turn us on. We're here to turn it out after a UCF blowout. Yes. Someone asked in the comments where you got that chain from, by the way, and drop the link, bro. Don't be selfish.
I got you.
Drop the link. Look, everybody should be going out and getting themselves some UCF pendants after this one. Scott Frost's squad beats Bill Belichick by 25. If you watched this show, you saw at least some of this coming because we tried to tell people, hey, look, this isn't as difficult a task as it seemed that it might be as we learned more about North Carolina. If you heard our guest from on our crossover, Isaac Shade, he said as much as well too. He picked UCF to win this game. ESPN said UCF had an 83% chance to win this one. They looked like a team that had an 83% chance to win. This is not they didn't slay some Power 4 juggernaut, but for a team that most people predicted would not even make a bowl game this year, this is an absolute win. 34 points for the Knights, man. Initial thoughts and feelings on this one. You were there in the bounce house.
Yeah, I was there, and let me tell you, this felt at the beginning of the game like Colorado last year, and at the end of the game, you didn't get that same feeling, obviously, because you didn't walk out of there with a loss. You walked out of there with a W. The bounce house was electric today. I was hearing a lot of derogatory chants towards Bill Belichick. Fans were getting rowdy. People were getting angry. And that's what you want. You want your team and you want your fans to get up and get loud. And you definitely saw that from the UCF bounce house today. I couldn't ask for a better environment to be in. I couldn't ask for a better showing from the fans of UCF. Great overall day for sure.
James, if you were a current UCF commit, you have to feel good about what you saw today being the start of something, them laying the foundation for you as a recruit to walk into something that's not a complete mess. UCF absolutely dominated a bad team. And North Carolina is a bad team. They're a bad team. But they beat them like they were a bad team. I think that's a good sign. This is what I said about North Carolina A&T. No, you don't take a ton away from beating a team like that by 61 points. But what I saw was a team that went out there and dominated the way that they should. This was a dominant win. I would say North Carolina looked a little hapless at times, but also UCF, for the most part, and Tav Jackson took care of the football. Didn't see careless turnovers out there. Talk to me about ball security, man. This looked like a well-coached football team.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, there was no large explosive play that decided the game, on offense, at least. There was nothing that screamed like 60-yard, 70-yard bomb. Like, there wasn't these big plays, but it was just like settled drives that were just consistent. They took you get the ball to start the game and you go on a 7-minute drive down the field and you score TD. Like, that is what the whole game felt like. It just felt very structured. I can only think of 2 or 3 times where it kind of felt like the game script for the drive was bad. They felt comfortable. It didn't feel like they were seeing something that they weren't used to seeing defensively. It just overall felt like a great, complete team win from the Knights.
Only 366 yards. However, they managed 34 points, so they took advantage of the opportunities in the red zone fairly well today. 6 of 6 on red zone trips. This is a really good sign for a growing team as well, too. Not blowing red zone trips, coming away with 0 points. They got down there 6 times. They scored 6 times. This is Scott Frost in his bag. This is Scott Frost that made his name as a play caller. And, man, I got to tell you, I really loved to see what they did in the red zone today. I also want to mention UCF one time of possession, 33 minutes to 26 minutes, give or take a few seconds there on each of those. But I thought they dominated pretty well in scoring.
Oh, for sure. They played phenomenal. And I think that in terms of red zone, you can't really ask for anything more. Like, that was exactly what you needed to see from a team that struggled so hard to score week 1 against a real opponent. Like, you had tons of yards first game, but you can't get 7. Today, you saw the exact opposite. You had a team that didn't need explosive plays to score. You didn't need to rely on the big bomb or the big breakthrough run. You were able to scheme a scoring game from back to front, 6 for 6 in the red zone. I think you only punted twice. Just a team that is like a well-oiled machine, Mike.
Yeah, look, that was fun. I'm going to tell you, I had fun watching that game. And I know UCF fans had fun watching that one. But Andrew Gluko from UCFNightZone.com is going to join us here in a second live from the Bounce House. But talk to me about the atmosphere here today. You and I talked about this on our last show about creating that hostile environment that leaves teams walking out of there like, damn, they were loud. UCF fans show up for this one. We got some comments saying that people were flying in for the game.
Oh yeah, we had comments. I saw people that I talked to that it was their first UCF game ever. They had never been to the Bounce House, so this was their first experience. I know, at least from where I was sitting, it was loud. And I saw some stuff in the UCF Twitter mafia where people were complaining about students leaving early, and there was an alumni versus students battle. I don't care. People were loud. We won the football game, and we won good. The environment was great. There was on like first or second drive from UNC, we forced a false start, and then they called a timeout, and it didn't look like they knew what they were doing. They couldn't get the call in. There was a lot of confusion. The Bounce House was rocking, Mike.
Yeah, it definitely was rocking. James, so many good things to take away from today's win for UCF. Look, this is still a work in progress, but UCF 4-4 on fourth downs, right? I would like to see that third down conversion rate be just a tiny bit better. Only 5 of 13 on third downs today. That's going to have to get better once you get into conference play. You cannot be sub 50% on third downs and expect to walk away with any wins. They generated 22 first downs today, but also maybe a tiny bit disappointing 40 yards on 7 penalties there. Would like to see that cleaned up here. But look, it's a work in progress. We knew that it would be. We knew that this would be something that UCF fans were going to have some patience with. And I think that they did a good job laying the foundation for what this is going to look like here moving forward. Before we move on to talk about the day that Tav Jackson is, man, final thoughts on the win itself. I think this was quietly a good win that helps move your program forward. Dare I say, if Gus is still the coach, you lose this game. Somehow, you find a way to lose this game.
Yeah, this win, and it was funny because as soon as we had a bad drive or a stalled drive for a punt, fans started looking around and they were like, is this Baylor? Is this about to be Baylor again? We don't know what's going to happen here. And to see a coach finish the game, there's no worry about a team coming back from a 28-point lead. There's no worry about turning the ball over, which the UCF Knights had 0 turnovers. To be honest, if I could have this type of win every week, I would pray for it, Mike. The defense played phenomenal, and I don't know, there was a couple offsides that were poorly timed. And I think Sincere jumped once or twice. Jamal Johnson jumped once or twice. And those are things that are going to happen, and you got to clean them up, but you also got to make up for it on the back end. Sincere with a couple TFLs. There was a big sack. Obviously, the interception from Nigel Lee Kelly. When there were defensive plays that needed to be made, they were made. And that is the difference between this team and previous year's teams. And that is why this football game ended in a UCF Knights win.
James, unless the running game picks up here, I fear that this team may go as Taven Jackson goes. So we're going to talk about Taven Jackson and the day he had throwing the ball next, right after a quick word from our sponsors. This episode of Locked On UCF is brought to you by our friends at Mazda, guys. Mazda's moving the game forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than just put points on the board. They move crowds, they move culture, and they keep the game moving forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward is everything Taven Jackson did, from running the ball to throwing the ball. He had a stupendous day that we're going to talk about in our next segment, throwing for 78% on the day. UCF's going to win a lot of games. Sounds like a Mazda guy to me. So when you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. This episode of Locked On UCF is also brought to you by our friends at Wayfair. The weather's cooling down. The days are getting shorter. And that has me wanting to make my home feel even cozier. And when it comes to cozyifying your space, Wayfair is the place to go. Wayfair has everything you need to set the mood for the season, whether it's comfy recliners, warm bedding, autumn decor, even espresso machine, so that you can make your favorite latte at home. Cozify your space with Wayfair's curated collection of easy, affordable fall updates, from cozy, comfy recliners to just very, very comfortable bedding and autumn decor. You'll find it all for way less at Wayfair.com. That's Wayfair.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Taven Jackson. We've talked about this guy a lot. He was 25 for 32 on the day for 223 yards and a touchdown. I think we put the over-under at 250 yards passing. 223, man. He came pretty close. He had an efficient day throwing the ball, but most of all, he found guys in the end zone when he needed to. I think he found Kylan Fox on a TD there, and he just, to me, I think he played efficiently. I think he played very efficiently in this football game. Taven Jackson should have a stranglehold on this starting job. We're in Power 4 play now, so this is when it counts the most. And he just went out and he went 78% passing against another Power 4 team. Now, I can't say this enough. We understood what kind of challenge North Carolina was going to be, but he never left the door open. He helped them sustain drives. I thought that they are laying a very, very good foundation to build on with Taven Jackson right now.
Yeah, I mean, right now the order of quarterbacks is Taven, Jacurri, and then Cam. Cam's been running with the threes, and I think that's totally fine considering how well Taven's doing right now, and the ability to diversify your offense with Jacurri. But the guy is Taven going into Power 4 play. Big win today, and to be completing 78% of your passes and looking unbelievably comfortable in the pocket with some newly found pass protection today. Did well when he had to scramble out, and he did well when he was even pressured in the pocket. he made passes where there needed to be passes made. And he was always, it felt like when there was a long third down or there was a fourth down play that needed to be made or a second and long, he was finding guys. And even if it was, second and 10 or whatever, he would find Kylan or he would find Dylan for a check down somewhere in the middle on a stick route for a tight end. And it just felt like plays were being made where before you might have forced the ball somewhere else, he's taking the guy that's open. Now, I will say on the TD pass or the pass before the TD pass, he did have Dylan Wade, or it was either Dylan or Kylan wide open in the seam. And it was a touchdown if he threw it. He ended up throwing it to the side. You get a touchdown next play. No big deal. But when you're going through your reads and you see and you skip over a guy, you miss a perfect opportunity to throw a touchdown ball up the seam. That's something that you don't want to repeat those moments. You want to go back and look at film and you want to look at those moments. But other than that, Taven had a great day. He delivered the ball where the ball needed to be delivered and had a very sneaky Peyton Manning-esque read option where he faked the entire stadium and went to the right. Every single person thought it went up the middle.
I've got to tell you, one of the bright spots, I think, in this game, now I shouldn't neglect to mention, he did carry the ball 10 times for 66 yards and a TD in this game, but he took care of the football today. Right? You let bad teams beat you when you turn the football over. That's how you let bad teams sneak back in and beat you when they should have no chance of beating you. And the way he takes care of the football, it doesn't leave the door open for teams like North Carolina to sneak in and beat you. So if I'm Scott Frost and Mackenzie Milton, I'm super happy with how his ball placement, where I think he could sharpen up a little bit, but for the most part, when the big plays are there, he's finding them, and that's got to be encouraging for these guys.
Yeah, and I think honestly, as someone that was watching from the stands, I kept waiting for like a big shot play. I kept waiting for like a deep ball that was like a go ball or a deep dig or a post, and we never really got that, but we never also really needed it. It would be putting the ball in harm's way more than necessary. It felt like everything that he was taking was either underneath or on the inside, or it was a check down or something. But it's a check down, and then you get 7 yards after catch with Dwayne Thomas making a couple moves, or it's an RPO slant, and you're getting Dylan Wade for 8 yards, and then you're running the next play. Everything felt methodical, and it felt like he was going through his progressions rather than just forcing it to the first one, which is something that we have seen from previous quarterbacks here at UCF. Really refreshing to see somebody just go through their progressions and actually make the conscious play and the easy first down play.
Are you a little concerned that I don't love him being the leading rusher in this game, though? It feels like these running backs are having a hard time getting anything going. But we asked yesterday if we might, on the pregame, if we might see Ja'Cory Brown come in there for some run plays. We saw that today. But 143 yards on the ground, almost half of that, Tav Jackson.
And let me tell you, and that's a deceiving number from, watching the whole game. It's a deceiving number. And the reason it's a deceiving number is UNC was so keyed in on the run that almost every single time the ball was being thrown, it was into single coverage. There was no point at which a ball was thrown into double coverage. And that is really important because it meant that they were so focused on what was happening inside the box and loading the box, or they weren't covering the spread of the offense. They weren't covering the whole field. It was mostly inside of where Miles or Ja'Cory or Jaden would be taking the football. And most of the times you saw Taven break off for big runs. It was in a scramble opportunity. He had a couple QB draws on like a fourth and one or a 3rd and 1. And obviously he had the read option play into the corner of the end zone. But yeah, most of those were from a big explosive run here and there, where a QB spy left and he was the only guy out there making a big play. I love that you noted the thing about Ja'Cory. It was really important for me to see that they can use him correctly.
Yeah.
They brought him in at good moments, I felt like personally, where you knew that the ball needed to be on the ground. You knew that like you needed to run the football. And it's better to have two options back there than one. You know, I'm not writing off Taven's running ability, but Taven does his best work when he's alone on the outside running in fresh green grass, versus Ja'Cory is fine going in between 6 or 7 people.
Yeah, I hope they find a way to use Ja'Cory Brown more to add another wrinkle to this offense. Andrew Glukov is standing by live from the bounce house. We're going to bring him in our third segment to talk about our players of the game and then hear about what Scott Frost had to say in the post-game press conference. And we're going to do all that right after a quick word from our sponsors. This episode of Locked On UCF is brought to you by our friends at DoorDash. It's almost the weekend. It's time to look back and crown this week's MVP Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash streaks, saving you more every time, these players delivered when it mattered the most. Let's talk about it. This week's player is none other than Tav Jackson. He delivered in a big way today with over 280 yards of total offense. And just like Tav Jackson delivered for UCF, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays with DoorDash streaks. You save every time you order and stack it up all season. And you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo code runs through November 18th, so please do not miss out. Also, this episode of Locked On UCF is brought to you by our friends at Square. That's right, Square. Your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. There are certain businesses that truly make the neighborhood feel like home, whether it's the local sports bar packed on game days, the coffee shop that knows your order by heart, or the corner deli that's been serving your community for decades. These are places that bring people together. When neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives, and Square is there to support them. Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhoods businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/locked-on to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square, see the neighborhood. I want to thank all our sponsors. They make this show possible. Let's bring in Andrew Glukov live from the bounce house. He was covering live for Locked On UCF and UCFnightzone.com. Andrew, thank you for joining us, man. It was UCF fans confirmed report. I have this on inside sources. UCF fans are having fun. Today was fun.
Definitely fun. But the typical UCF play of the second half attendance seemed very much a fraction of the first did rear its ugly head, because of that big lead.
It did. Look, UCF had an efficient day, not turning the ball over, but they won this one by 25. Now, they were heavy favorites headed into this one due to the noted problems North Carolina was having coming into this one that James and I highlighted this week. But what was Scott Frost feel? He's got to be excited that his team is now 3-0 to start their season, and now they have a non-conference Power 4 win.
Yeah, and well, the key is you take what the defense gives you, and the defense was not allowing the Knights' offense to go deep, which actually worked in their favor because Tav Jackson specializes in not throwing the ball deep. So he had a very efficient day. If you give him the short and medium, he's going to pick you apart, and that's exactly what he did. He had a very efficient day. We've talked multiple times, Mike, during last year and then this year, about 60% completion being kind of the magic number, and they more than easily eclipsed that this week. And if you hit more than 60% of your passes, chances are looking good that you're going to find a victory in your favor. And I want to point out, the running game struggled a bit, but again, they moved around with it. They didn't have to do the total up tempo. They were able to speed up and slow down. They didn't allow the defense to get tired out. This is a well-coached team that is willing to change their strategy on a dime based on what's out there. It's something we didn't see in the last few years under Gus Malzahn, and it's something that Josh Heupel struggled with during his time at UCF. I think the Scott Frost 2.0 style is a lot more dynamic in how it operates versus the Scott Frost 1.0 style. And while this year is a transition year, I think overall the ceiling is going to be higher for what this program in a Power Four conference is going to be able to put out there.
Andrew, was Scott asked about Tav Jackson's day? What was his assessment of his quarterback's play today?
He was very impressed with how he did. He took what the defense gave. He had a few wrinkles in there, a lot of option runs. He fooled the defense on multiple occasions and was able to capitalize. He's very pleased with how he did. Obviously, when it comes to what's next, he always keeps it close to the vest. But I think Taven did about as much as he can to really put it out there to try to say, hey, let me be the full permanent starter instead of the guy who's just keeping the seat warm while a player is still working his way back from injury.
Any concerns about his running backs here? Taven was the leading rusher in this game. Ja'Cory Brown added 34 yards on the ground here on 4 carries. But, what was his thoughts about the performance of his running backs?
Well, they didn't talk too much exactly about the running back specifically. There was the cloud hanging over the offensive line with Coach Clark, and they all try to play as inspired as possible. But I mean, that did play a role a little bit. It's hard to get past the reality. I mean, things are bad. And there's no way to mince words about that. And you think about that, even though you're going through the motions, you're playing your game, but your coach is not here. And I think that impacted the line a little bit, even though they tried to play as spirited as possible. Their pass protection was still spot on. I think they're a great pass protecting team, which is why they utilized the pass so often. Like, hey, you're going to give it to him, take it. But the run blocking still needs work. North Carolina did a good job of bottling up the inside run. And again, you just take what's given. And again, we talked about this earlier. None of these guys are RJ Harvey. They can't create literally gold out of stone. They're going to have to deal with what's presented to them. And if it's 2.5, 3 yards a carry, which unfortunately Miles Montgomery averaged less than 3 yards a carry, so be it. But you find other ways to win. 9 different receivers caught passes. I even asked about freshman Wade and Charles to Tav Jackson, and he's like, this guy's going to be a star. So the freshmen are even getting involved. Dylan Wade got a little bit of a shoulder injury. Scott said he'll be okay. Other than that, I mean, this team has really been lucky. They've avoided the injury bug. They seem to have a habit of knocking quarterbacks out of the game. They knocked 3 out against A&T. They knocked out Gio Lopez in this game. I mean, this is it's the offense better be glad they're on the other side of this UCF defense, standing behind them instead of standing in front of them.
Andrew, before we let you go here, again, I mentioned UCF now 3-0 to start their season. A lot of people had this team not even making a bowl game, and now here we stand. They've won their first of 3 games, albeit versus Jacksonville State and North Carolina A&T. Still, they seem to be building something here. What was your feeling from Scott Frost on what he's building? You want to celebrate each win, but you want to move on quickly because you got another opponent coming. That next opponent is Kansas State.
Yeah, they're very cognizant that this game was far from flawless. There was a lot of issues, particularly the unforced errors on the defensive line with the offsides calls. Nigel Kelly commented as one of the leaders on the defense. He took it very personally that these mistakes were being made. He's like, I got to do better. These are players that take ownership of those mistakes. They're not sitting on the on their laurels waiting on a win. They're looking for the things that have to be fixed and going into next week's game. They're finally going on the road. They know that Manhattan is not an easy place to play as a road team. Scott Frost actually had a coaching job there. So he's been there, done that. He knows what it's like there. And UCF struggled on the road during the 2 years Malzahn was coach at for the Big 12 teams. So they're not taking anything for granted, even though Kansas State has struggled out the gate. All things considered, this may be the best opportunity for UCF to really get into the conference groove, because Kansas State has struggled. They've got the 3-0 of this home out of conference slate. Me personally, I would have loved to have seen a road game in there so that they were ready for non-conference play. Didn't work out that way. They'll be going to Chapel Hill in 2 years. But again, I think this team has a lot to work on, but they're very cognizant of the issues they have to work on, and they're going to do that.
1-0 every week are the UCF Knights. Look, it's a lot of fun covering an undefeated football team. Hopefully they can stay that way. Pull off a big upset in Manhattan next week. Andrew Glucko, senior writer at UCFKnightzone.com. Please go check out his written work there. Thanks, Andrew, for reporting for us on site. Get home safely.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
James, there you have it. Great reporting there from Andrew on site. He covers for us on site every single week, man. Before we get out of here, final thoughts on this one. I said it on our pregame last night, and I said it earlier this week. If you are a UCF fan, let yourself have some fun. It's okay to hope. It's okay to have fun with this right now. I'm not saying they're going to win every game, but I think they're going to win some games that nobody expects them to win. And look, before the season started, this was a game a lot of folks didn't expect UCF to win, because the narrative was they were going to be a bad football team that's going to struggle to make a bowl game. And I'm here to tell you, if they won 4 games last year, they're already 3 to that 4. I think they got 3 more in the tank.
Yeah, I think most UCF fans will tell you that the precautionary the precautions are still there.
Our trauma.
Yeah, no, because you start last year 3-0, and then you finish 4-8. I don't think most fans will be having fun. And interestingly enough, you called next week the upset in Manhattan. Do you think UCF is not favored next week in Manhattan?
I think, again, before the season started, everybody would have called that a loss. And there are some people who have not changed. Sure. There are a lot of people who have not changed their perspective on that game. So after seeing them versus Iowa State in Dublin, I watched that game from start to finish, man. I wasn't impressed with either one of these teams. And let me tell you something. It didn't look like some battle of juggernauts. That's not what I saw. I saw two very sloppy football teams. So I hear what you're saying. But as of right now, I still think because it's a road game, I still think it would be kind of an upset. But okay,
I don't know, Mike, because here's the thing. You got Kansas State squeaking out a win against North Dakota, not to be confused with NDSU, which is actually a halfway decent football program, just North Dakota, and then getting beat by Army, Mike. I don't think when the line comes out, I don't think UCF is not favored.
Yeah, I'll tell you, ESPN's matchup predictor giving the Wildcats a 61.9% chance to win that game right now. We'll see if that moves this week. But as I mentioned, that reflects the preseason sentiment about this Big 12 opener for UCF. It's not Kansas State's Big 12 opener, obviously, because they've already played Iowa State to open their season. Yeah. But I hear you, James. I hear you. I just am ready for a lot of the people who just acted like, I mean, on our own Big 12 poll here at Locked On, and I voted in it, but I didn't have UCF this low. They voted UCF 15th. 15th, James. Now, I don't do the squad shows very often, but I don't know what those guys were looking at when they voted in this thing, man. I'm telling you, it was all the hosts here that voted. They did away with the media poll for the Big 12. But 15th, man, come on, dude. They had ASU's already lost. They had Kansas State, UCF's opponent, number 2 in the league. Come on, man. Texas Tech might be for real. Baylor's got a really good offense. Iowa State was on the other side of that UCF thing there. I don't know, dude. I have been of the opinion that a lot of these teams were overrated and that people voting on sentiment and fanfare instead of facts. And when you look at UCF, you had to be brave to look at that 4-8 record and say, no, these guys were better than that. Gus rode this team into the ground.
And honestly, Mike, I think the main thing is that you could toss all the team names into a hat at the beginning of the year and pick out of the hat.
Wide open.
And that is the order that it will be, because that is the way that the Big 12 is. There is so much parity. And for UCF fans, that parity has struck you down the past 2 years. And this year, I will listen to you and I will give the Knights some hope.
Yeah,
and I will give myself some hope for the Knights, because God, man, you gotta look at this game and see a complete team win, Mike.
Yeah, I do. I see a different team than I saw last year. And I think that's what's more important is that you definitely have better quarterback play than you had last year. You have more steady quarterback play. You've logged a P4 win. Now you got to go and you've got to play great defense on Kansas State. As you you pointed out, they are now 1-3. They're 1-3. They lost to Arizona. And I'm gonna come back to this poll. We, the Locked On host of the Big 12, voted Arizona last.
16.
Last. And they lost to those guys. Yikes, man. They are holding 3 L's right now. I think that the matchup predicting Kansas State to win is more about this being a home game for Kansas State than anything.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, I don't know that any Kansas State fan feels super great about where they are right now at 1-3.
Yeah,
all I know is the team we cover is 3-0.
Manhattan's a tough place to play. Manhattan's a tough place to play regardless. But here's the thing: Scott Frost is one of those coaches that's a player's coach. He knows how to get these guys going. He knows how to get them ready for an environment. I'm saying it now. Knights win next week against Kansas State.
Oh,
give me the dub, Mike.
A 4-0 to start the season.
Yes.
1-0 in the Big 12. More importantly, if they win that game, can't wait to see that. Scott Frost looking to make a splash in year one here. Recruits, if you're listening, take notice. UCF is building something special. You can go to one of those other teams and be a part of a wheel, the cog in the wheel, or you can come to Orlando and you can blaze your own path. Blaze your own path now with Scott Frost and Mackenzie Milton and Alex Grinch. I love what these guys are doing. I know you love it. We love it here. Really quickly before we get out of here, my player of the game is obviously Tav Jackson. Who's your player of the game?
My player of the game is, I'm just going to give credit to the D-line. Whole D-line. Whole D-line is my player of the game.
I love it.
I know they had two offsides calls, but give me the D-line. Defense played phenomenal. There was pressure on, I don't even know what the stat is, but I'm gonna say it felt like a majority of the snaps we were getting pressure, wreaking hell in the backfield. Give me the entire D-line.
I like that. I like giving an entire offensive unit the award, entire unit on defense here the award. Great pick. Great picks all around. Look, we nailed it. We've nailed 3 games straight. I think Jacksonville State was a little off. I thought UCF would put up more points in that game, but still they won the game, and they had to change quarterbacks to do it. But now that they've got the guy that we thought would win it in the preseason, which was Tav Jackson, it turns out maybe Taven's just a gamer. Maybe he's just a guy who goes out and plays on Saturdays and just balls, because ball is ball. You've got to continue to develop who your QB2 is, because you are one hit away from needing that guy, Cam Fancher again, or Ja'Cory Brown. So I like seeing Ja'Cory get some snaps in this one. Look, we're going to get a lot of snaps here at Locked On UCF, talking UCF football this season. James Duncan, UCF sports commentator. I want to thank you for joining me today. I want to thank you guys for watching. Thank you for making Locked On your first listen of every single day. We'll catch you guys Monday morning on Locked On UCF.